Okay, hey y'all. Not the best way to start off live. I just spilled. Hold on a minute. Things like this only happen to me. Bear with me here. I just dropped some of my pudding. Okay. Fortunately, the majority of it did not hit the floor, but some of it just popped from inside of it outside. I'll have to clean that up when I'm done with y'all. Okay, sorry. Like I said, things like this only happen to me. I am a diabetic. Oh, got a little cramp there. I'm a diabetic, and so I get low blood sugar. So anyway, was feeling like I was getting about to have low blood sugar, and so before I got on this live with y'all, I wanted to make sure I had some little something to eat, a little snack. But anyway, thank you for joining me this morning, I should say, because we are now it's Wednesday, right? And so anyway, I wanted to talk about, oh, by the way, please like and subscribe to my channel. Got lots of reels. We'll be uploading more reels. We'll be going live. I made a pledge to y'all. I was going to go live daily. I felt really bad yesterday. I did not go live. I was pretty much in bed come evening time, but wanted to make sure I hopped on this evening. And so the topic I wanted to discuss this evening is that of special needs and having a special needs child. Because I know we're in the age of the internet, and I know you can find most any information that you want to know about on the internet, but it's still pretty rough out there navigating being a special needs mama in a lot of places. And for those of you who don't know how to navigate that spectrum, I'm going to talk in broad terms. I'm going to speak of my own experience. Okay. So I have three special needs children, two who are adults, and one that is still younger. And so when I had my first child, and this was 20 plus years ago that I had my first child was born with special needs. And there was not the internet, there were not mom groups, there was no information, there was no support out there at all. And so everything that I had to learn and everything that I've learned and everything that I have accomplished on my journey with my child, I had to figure out for myself. I had to make it up. I had to try and do some research. I had to pray about it. That's how I got through my first two children. My first two children were special needs. My third one was not. I have 5 kids. Trying to figure out what is on my notebook. Doesn't matter. So anyway, I'm just going to tell you my journey, my experience, and hopefully it will help someone out there. Okay, hopefully you can take a piece or a part of my journey away for yourself, and it will prove helpful to you. So, reminding you, of course, starting off with this story, this was 20 something years ago. So I was pregnant with my first child. So my first child, I don't know anything about kids. Okay. Didn't know anything about kids. My parents were, after a very long marriage, 30 plus years, were going through a divorce, a pretty brutal divorce. And so my mother was just not mentally available to me at the time. Um, and so didn't really have a big support group. Um, Trying to think. None of my aunts at the time had children. Um, my cousins were younger than me. Um, I didn't have a village at all whatsoever. At all. So like literally I went through my pregnancy. It was a very bad time for me. So it was a very bad time for me. I had a rough pregnancy. Was not eating the best at the time. And was not really financially in a good place at all whatsoever. And so I had to go to this, and I don't know what this is on my shirt. It's kind of driving me crazy. But y'all bear with me and my ADHD self, okay? I don't know what that is on my shirt. It's like built into my shirt. Don't know what that is. But anyway, had to go to a, we'll say, less than desirable doctor, okay? OBGYN at the time. And so this is before I was Tish the Advocate. This was before any of that. And so I went to this doctor. She tells me that you have to have a C-section. The baby's going to be too big for you to vaginally give birth. Now, this was, of course, horrific, horrific, because this is my first child. She did not even attempt for a vaginal birth. My daughter ended up being less than 5 pounds. Okay. And she knew that from measurements, but she told me that the baby was too big because she wanted the money. Okay. And this happens to African Americans. So stuff like this still happens to African American women, even now. And unfortunately, I hate to say, this woman was African American, and she preyed on me because she knew that I was young. I didn't have, obviously, any information about being a mom, childbirth, any of that. Didn't know, wasn't informed. And so she told me I had to have a C-section. And so went to have the baby at a small hospital, which does not even exist anymore. It's a parking lot now. Went to have the baby, and so they're cutting me open, and she's not there in the operating room. And so I'm young, I'm dumb, I'm naive, and I don't know any better. I never, ever let someone cut you open without the doctor being present. So she comes in, they're like, she's at lunch, you know. She comes in, eventually, she's drunk. Um, they're unable to extract the this sounds crazy like now in 2022, but this was 1998, and this actually happened. True story. She comes in to extract the baby. She can't get the baby out. Now I'm thinking, she's a professional, she's a doctor, what do I know? Meanwhile, like, all kinds of red flags and alarms are going off in my head, right? But I'm thinking, once again, she's a professional, she's a doctor, what do I know? Tish the Advocate, of course, this never would have occurred, none of it. But Tish, the brand new mom, didn't know. She can't get the baby out. She's using a vacuum. Don't know what exactly that is, but that's what she's using. And they're just talking like they can't get the baby out. And I'm thinking to myself, you've cut me open. I don't know a lot, but I do know if you've cut me open, it shouldn't be difficult at this point to extract the baby. So all that to say, my daughter suffered oxygen deprivation at birth because of this entire ordeal, was born, in trauma. And also, well, I don't want to skip ahead. So anyway, she's born, she's at the hospital. She does not cry. She didn't cry at birth. She did not cry at all. She never cried. And I'm thinking to myself, young, stupid, I have the best baby ever. This baby does not cry. She's so quiet. Um, I had trouble lactating. There were not lactation consultants and all that kind of thing back then where I was. Um, and a nurse came in and told me shortly after the birth, I think something is wrong with your child. And, you could tell she was not, she had to have been told not to say anything to me because nobody else said anything to me. And she like came in and whispered it really quietly and held my hand and then left out. But I'm looking at my child and I'm thinking to myself, this child is perfect. She hasn't cried. She doesn't, so of course that turned out to be almost fatal for her because I didn't know when to feed her, how often to feed her, didn't know when she was wet, didn't know when she was dry, checked on her every 5 seconds. I was not lactating enough. Um, and my daughter almost, long story short about her beginning of life, almost died from malnutrition. She had a distended belly. And of course, I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, she's eating so well. She's got a fat belly. Um, I don't know what happened exactly. Uh, what saved? I think I had gone to the doctor. I had gone to and I really couldn't afford, follow up visits. They weren't all, things were not as they are now. You did not get the complimentary follow up visits like if you had Medicaid or whatever. It was just different. And so I had finally taken her to the doctor, and the doctor's like, oh my gosh, she's near death. And I felt so terrible because I held her all day, every day, all day long. And she would just stare into my eyes. And, I was just constantly checking her. She didn't have a lot of wet diapers, didn't have a lot of poopy diapers. Ding, ding, ding. Should have been going off in my head. I didn't know. I didn't have anybody who cared, really, to be honest, enough about me to help me or to guide me, give me guidance. I did not have a village. I didn't have anybody. And as far as women go, who would know about these things. And so the doctor said, I'm going to prescribe a specialty formula for her, because we tried her on, all these different formulas. Um, because I guess apparently was not lactating enough. And at that point I couldn't lactate more. And I don't know exactly all what happened, but anyway, she needed formula. And, either she had a milk allergy or she was so far um, malnourished that she was unable to take any formula. She was just spitting it up, spitting up, spitting up. And so I got really concerned, gathered all my money together, went back to the doctor, and he put her on Nutramigen. I was on Medicaid. And I have to say, for all of you who poo poo public assistance and all of that kind of thing, um, that I'm just going to be real. That's why my daughter is here today. Because I was on Medicaid, I was able to get Nutramigen, which was hideously expensive per um, bottle, per container of formula. And I put her on that, and she was able to accept that, but she did not eat a lot. And then, of course, I slowly started introducing oatmeal and foods and all of that kind of thing. But she always kind of had digestive issues from birth. She was not really a good eater. Um, and I want to say it was about 10 months before she looked healthy, kind of healthy. And so anyway, my mom had come to see her. My mom had come to see her. And my mom, who has been an educator for I don't even know how many decades, anyway, immediately said to me, something's wrong with her. And I thought, here's my new baby. I'm a new mom, never been a mom before. And, my mom's trying to be helpful. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that is the most hateful thing that somebody could ever say to a new mom about their child. And I was like, she's perfect. Because in my eyes, she was perfect. And so Um, ignored my mom, did my best, started reading books and, just spent literally every waking moment with her. And in the beginning, she got real sick. I forgot this part. In the beginning, we were discharged from the hospital um, at the same time. And then we both went back into the hospital because I got sick after I gave birth. And, thank God I could have died right then. I got so sick, and she actually got sick at the same time. Thank the Lord, because I had nobody to watch her. So God worked it out so that we were both in the hospital for the same amount of time, and we were both discharged again together. Um, and I want to tell you a story that I'm sorry, I'm backtracking, but I want to tell you a story because I want this to be encouragement to any of you C-section mamas out there. While I was in the hospital, and like I said, I had nobody with me, by myself, really scared. Um, and I was really concerned about C-section. I didn't know a lot about it, but I had heard from people, they would say that and that's once again not the same thing in 2022, but back then in 1998, people would say if you have one C-section, you'll have to have all C-sections, and you can only have a couple C-sections. So I was heartbroken because I was like, my hopes for a big family later are dashed because I'm starting off with a C-section. And so I'm in the hospital room, and there's a curtain, like a curtain. So, like, it's pulled, and a woman from over the curtain, and I don't know if I was talking to myself or whatever, but anyway, a woman from the other side of the curtain said to me, "Oh, dear, have no worries," or something like that, or "have no fear. I've had 9 C-sections." And I said, 9? And she said, yes. And then she said, you'll be fine. It was something to that effect. It's been a lot of years, but that was pretty much the conversation that we had. So before I left, I had asked the nurse, I said, can I pull back the curtain and talk to the lady who's in the bed next to me and tell her, thank you for the encouraging words and all of that. And the nurse said, there's nobody in the bed next to you. And I said, yes, of course there is. We had a conversation. And she said, no, there isn't. And there hasn't been anybody here since you have been here. And so I know now that that was an angel that spoke to me. I know it was. I went on, by the way, to have 5 C-sections. Um, so anyway, moving forward, my mom told me that my daughter was special needs. Something was wrong. I needed to figure it out. Didn't believe her, thought she was being hateful. Fast forward, I was in school and I was at a teaching college studying to be a teacher. And I had a kindergarten class or I don't know. They were like, no, I think they were a pre-K class. And what the positive thing was, I was able to put my daughter the um in the uh at the teaching college because they had a school there for children that we were able to work at and fulfill our teaching hours or whatever. And so I had my daughter enrolled there. And they called me one day and they said to me, Tish, do y'all hear that thunder? We're having a storm here. Tish, do you know that your daughter is special needs or has special needs? I don't remember exactly how they put it, but I'll never forget it. I was off that day and I had dropped her off, and I was standing in the door to my back porch, and my husband was standing behind me, and they called and they told me, and I don't remember outside of those words, I don't remember what else they said to me, but I remember screaming and I remember breaking down in tears, and that's all I remember. Um, and so what happened after that is uh now mind you, my husband's making like $9 an hour, right? And I brought her home at that point. And to make a very long series of years shorter, um, we were in California. I took her to every specialist I possibly could, which means that every single dollar, every single dime that we had was spent on seeing specialists. And we didn't have a lot of dollars or dimes. I like to tell my kids now, um, we would be living in, a mansion with cars and summer houses and everything else if it wasn't for all of the specialists and therapies and everything else that we've spent over the past 20 years on you guys. Um, but I took her to all these doctors, and I was told by all these doctors, all these expensive, supposedly the best doctors, uh, that, oh, this concern is nothing, this concern is nothing, that concern is nothing. And I know for a fact, I know this for a fact, I was told all these things because I'm African American, I'm poor, they can tell I'm poor, I'm African American, and I don't have a lot of knowledge at the moment about what might be wrong with my daughter. So spent thousands of dollars without answers or anything else, and I finally figured out, you know what? Anything that I do for her, I'm going to have to figure out on my own. I'm going to have to do on my own, right? Because these people are telling me things that I know aren't true. And so I found out. Um, I don't want to make this too long because let me tell you, honey, I could be on here for days talking about the experience and everything that I've gone through and everything that's happened and the doctors and the medications and the therapies and everything. But basically, to make a long story short, started doing a lot of research, found out, or like I said, we were in California, found out about the regional center, had them do testing and everything else on her. Nobody was exactly sure what was wrong with her, but the regional center was really kind of my first really big breakthrough because they did acknowledge, yes, she is severely disabled. And, after being told by so many specialists she's fine, there's nothing wrong with her, it was such a vindication and such a relief for someone to say, yeah, this is what we do all day. And yes, she has all of these different issues. And so I California, by the way, this is something I'm going to interject and say, and it's driving me crazy that this pudding is sitting spilled on my floor. But okay, California, if you have a child with special needs, and this is something you need to decide when your child is young, if you want to get your child the best of care. Now, for me, all of us are different kinds of parents. For me, my children and their welfare is the utmost importance. Okay, nothing trumps that. Nothing. So, if I had not lived in California and I had found out California is the best state to live in for children with special needs, I would have moved to California and lived in my car and done whatever I needed to do for my child. That's the kind of parent I am. So I just want to tell you, if you're in any other kind of state, because almost every state in the country is not friendly to special needs children, they have very limited services. They have very poor doctors. They have very um, insignificant services. And so if you have a severely special needs child, you need to move to California. I'm sorry, you just do, because California is the only state that I know of. I'm thinking maybe New York might have something comparable, but California is the only state that I know of where in the school system, let's say your child is categorized as autistic. they're not just going to put you, like here in Texas, I'm in Texas now. Here in Texas, if you say my child's autistic, you have one choice of one special needs class, and that's the class where the children are banging their heads against the wall and all that kind of thing. In California, if you say your child's autistic, they're going to categorize your child as, violent autistic, severely autistic, high functioning autistic, and they're going to have all these different types of classrooms depending on what level of autism your child has. And that goes for all of their special needs children's services. And they've got the regional center, which is fabulous. They just don't have any services in any other states that I know of, like they do in California. And so I put her in pre-K. It was like pre-K, but I know that that made all the difference in her life. So for those of you who don't know, the first 5 years, the first 5 years are the most important years in your child's development and life. So by the end of 5 years, your child's brain is nearly the same size as it will be as an adult. And so the neural pathways and connections that your child's brain makes during those first 5 years are tantamount. They are very, very, very important. The synapses and all of that. And so it's extremely important if you have a special needs child that you want to do as much as you can for them in terms of therapy, diagnosis, stimuli, and all of that during those first 5 years. Now, I had multiple doctors tell me that my daughter was never going to be able to walk. She was not going to be able to talk. She was not going to be able to run. She was not going to be able to basically function, that she was severely mentally retarded. I'm sorry, I do not know what the proper PC term for that is. But I was told all these things by multiple doctors, and I decided, you know what? If something's going to be done for her, it's going to be done by me. And so I got her into the pre-K, which they have in California. And so she started school at 3. I don't even know if they have that service anywhere else or if that even still exists in California, but she got into special needs program at 3. She stayed with the same teacher who was fabulous. I know God sent her because this teacher had a severely disabled child herself. So it wasn't just school knowledge that she had, but she had mom knowledge, and she was an older mom, and so she really knew what she was doing. She was fat. She was everything. She was everything. She was an absolute angel. And so my daughter was able to stay with her for 2 or 3 years. She stayed in the same classroom, which was just everything. And Allison, didn't mean to say her name, but anyway, my daughter, she did not walk. She did not crawl. When she finally did start to crawl, and that was at close to 1 year old, she crawled backwards only. She didn't walk until she was 2.5 or 3. But basically, I was like, you know what my goal is as a mom? My goal is as a mom is to make sure that this child, by the time she is an adult, is fully functional. And that if I die, that I know that she can live out in the world on her own. And that is exactly what she's doing, by the way. So I achieved my goal. But let me tell you, and I see I'm going to have to make this 2-part because there's so much to cover. I don't know why I thought I could get on here and cover it all. And this is just all about one child. I haven't even gotten to the second or third child. But anyway, I got her in school, and then there was this therapy that her teacher told me about. And as crazy as it sounds, it was like a retired circus troupe. This sounds crazy, but it was like a retired circus troupe, and they were teaching special needs kids through, the type of things that you would find in a circus, like trampolines and on balance beams and different acrobatic activity and muscle strengthening techniques and all of that. And so I don't know how I afforded this. I don't know how we did this, but anyway, she was in therapy like several times a week. I took her to this therapy and it was fabulous. And she started walking. And then it used to break my heart because we lived in a complex across the street. Directly across the street was a park and a playground. And she would see the kids at the playground. You know, we go to the park all the time. We're broke. Where are we going to go? We're going to go to the park for activities. And she would see the kids her age playing on, you know, the jungle gym, the monkey bars, and all that. And she's a very stubborn young lady. And she decided that she wanted to play on the monkey bars. And she didn't have, you know, she didn't have the muscle strength, the coordination, any of that to be able to play on the monkey bars. But what my husband would do is he'd put her up on the monkey bars and then he'd hold her and she'd, you know, grip and he'd just move her to the next bar because it was too far for her to reach. And he did this. The poor guy worked the night shift and he did this. We would go over to the park every single day, every single day. And every single day, she would climb the equipment and we'd do the monkey bars and everything else. And she started building up strength. And I want to say that she eventually was able to do those monkey bars. And she was eventually able to play on the playground equipment. The thing about special needs kids that I find is if you decide you're going to raise them to the standard that the doctors say they can be raised to, you are not going to tap into their full potential. I don't care what the doctors say they can or can't do. And yes, there are children who are severely, severely, severely disabled. But I believe that most children are able to do way above and beyond what the doctors say they are able to. Now, my daughter, and she was not properly diagnosed until she was, I want to say 17, 16, 17 years old. Nobody could properly diagnose her. Her diagnosis for her entire childhood was cerebral palsy. And they always said, we think there's more going on, but we don't know. And they didn't have the technology. And then at 16 or 17, thank God once again for Children's Hospital because we could not have afforded it. They decided to grant us we had a neurologist, you know, she's always had a neurologist, and they decided to grant us a DNA testing, to grant us DNA testing where it was $40,000 worth of DNA testing. And they found that she has a condition, a genetic condition that only 8 other people in the world have. And she's had a paper written up on her and everything else. And so she is the oldest living person with this condition. So they're not sure what her life expectancy is or what is going to happen in the further, you know, further years. But they I was so thankful they followed her many years past what Children's Hospital normally does in the neurology department because to follow her, to study her for case study. So she's historical. Um, but all that to say, I did private schools. Mind you, we didn't have a dollar, but all the money we had went, you know, to her and her sister, who was also born special needs. And I'll do another live maybe tomorrow on her sister's condition. But anyway, I ended up working for a time at the regional center. I memorized all of the statutes and laws regarding people with disabilities. I fought the school district. I homeschooled. I did so much. So there, like I said, there's so much that I did that I can't even, I can't even go into all of it. But I was able to put her on SSI on my own. They always say you need an attorney because this is what they do. You apply for SSI, they deny you. If you want to know, for any of you who may not be aware of what SSI is, it's um, oh my gosh, now my mind has gone blank because I'm thinking of something else. But anyway, it's basically a payment that you can receive if you have certain disabilities. And they have to be verified by doctors and by the Social Security Administration itself. And you'll get a payment each month that you can use to go toward your child's doctor appointments or toward their clothing or toward special care for them. There was also another program in California where you could get respite from a family member or hire somebody to give you respite, which is a break from taking care of your child, called IHSS, that program. I was able to find out about that program, and I was able to figure out that I could hire myself. Now, people know this all, like like yeah, people know that now. But back then, like, all of these things that I did, these were not things that were routine like they are now. They were not at all. I had to fight the Security Administration tooth and nail, tooth and nail, tooth and nail to get payment for my child, for her to receive SSI. I had to fight with IHSS to make myself her caregiver. And we also were able to receive money that way. And all these things went right back toward therapy, toward doctor's appointments, and whatnot for her. And private school, helped with private school. And let me tell you something else as a special needs mom that you need to know. You have to stay on top, and this is even if you don't have a special needs child, you have to stay on top of anybody who's providing care for your child, any teachers, anything, because there were many times that she was in school, and private school as well, I might add, where I was told that she was thriving. I mean, because I was that parent that was there every day. How is she doing? What is she doing? This, that, and the other. I found out, so for 3 years in the public school system and the private school system, I found out at the end of the year that what the teachers said were lies, that she had not thrived, she had not been taught. And I'll never forget, one teacher told me at the end of the year, instead of being honest with me and everything else, because they didn't want to be bothered and they didn't care about this little brown child, at the end of the year, I'll never forget, one teacher told me, look, I have X amount of students that I have to teach. And if I took time to be worried about your daughter, I wouldn't be able to do anything. Never forget that. And that's when I pulled her out and started homeschooling. But I also did, it's very important when you have a child with special needs, in addition to homeschooling, um, unless you're able to get into a phenomenal school district, and that probably won't happen if you're not in California. Unless you're able to, you have to teach your child, you have to work with your child on life skills, because special needs children do not learn things the same way that, we'll say, typical children do. And so you have to always be working on regular little life skills along the way. It's a very important part of your job as a special needs parent. Teaching your child how to bathe themselves, teaching your child how to get dressed, teaching your child how to change their underwear every day, brush their teeth, tie their shoes, things that you have to teach, quote unquote, typical children, but things that can take possibly years to teach a special needs child. My daughter was not potty trained until, I don't even know what age. I don't even know until what age. She also had so many digestive issues, and still does to this day, that she had to wear a diaper. And We had to, even at some point we had and I don't even know what the the correct term for this person is, but we had to hire a potty therapist. Um, I mean, the things that we went through, the things that we went through, and of course, all worth it, 100%. Um, I love my daughter. She's fabulous. I'm extremely proud of her. This is a child who I was told and who also has a very, 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 very low testing IQ. Um, is also in college right now, thriving. Okay. So I say that to all of you special needs parents out there. It is a hard road. It is a rough road. It is a lonely road because people don't understand what you go through. They have no clue. They have no clue about the long days, the long nights, the trials, the disappointments, the heartbreaks, the incorrect diagnoses, the amount of financial commitment. They have no clue about any of that, and they just don't. And you shouldn't expect them to. You need to find your village out there, and thank God we live in a time where you can find village. And you need to, you know, I do not have a lot of extra time. Um, y'all are always welcome to on the chat leave some questions, and I can always do a live. Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever heard thunder that loud. My whole house just shook. That scared me to death. Okay, y'all. Maybe woke up my kids. I can hear my kids. Okay, that scared the life out of me. I'm probably gonna get a kiddo that's gonna come downstairs because they're scared. Um, I'm sorry. I don't even know what I was saying. Oh yes. You can always leave me a question in chat, and I can always do um another live answering some questions that you may have. Um, but the main point of what I can say is, boy, we went through a lot, and it was very isolating, and it was very difficult, and it was very hard, and it was nonstop every day, and it was multiple doctor appointments per week and therapy and traveling and uh, fighting. Um, I think for 20 years I've been in fight mode. And I think that's why I'm such a really good consumer advocate because uh, I've been fighting for 20 years for my kids. Um, and that's what you have to do especially as a person of color. You have to fight even if you're not a person of color when you have a special needs child because people want to dismiss you and they're in our society we do not value people with disabilities at all whatsoever. We do not value the elderly whatsoever. And so you are always in fight mode, even with the people who proclaim and profess themselves to be advocates and, helpers and a lot of doctors and people like that. They are not. And so you always have to be in fight mode. You have to know all of your information. You have to do your research. You can't count on anyone to do your research for you or in other words, in order to when you go to the doctor, in order to know if what the doctor is saying is somewhat legit, you have to be super educated yourself on the issue or on your child. You have to do your due diligence, you have to do your research. um I have been able to go into court and defend myself without an attorney. And I'll tell you that story tomorrow with my other daughter and win. um, you just, you have to have a drive and a passion in you concerning your child. Because as hard as you think it's going to be it's going to be even harder than you think it's going to be in the end. And so, but like I said, for everything, for all the years, and it doesn't stop. When you have a special needs child, it doesn't stop at 18. You don't get to 18 and you're like, ah, you're done. Um, I like to say one of the mistakes that we made was we empowered our daughter. We wanted her to feel empowered. We wanted her to feel smart. We wanted her to have a good self image, and we wanted her to have a lot of confidence in this world, and kind of went overboard because unfortunately she does have limitations, and she's not aware of her own limitations because we raised her so well and so confidently and to be so secure, because what I could not take was her not feeling smart or people telling her that she wasn't smart or whatever. And we did that so well that now, unfortunately, she's not aware that she has limitations, which is a whole nother set of problems. But it's just hard. It's so hard. It's so hard, but it's your child and you love your child and your child is worth it. And you just want to keep that goal in your mind at all times, that your goal in this is to make sure your child can be independent. Okay. And you also, if you have a severely disabled child, your goal from the day that they're born is to open a Roth IRA and start stacking your money, because you need to prepare for when you die. Don't count on their sister or their brother or your mother or a cousin or an uncle or an aunt or somebody else taking care of your disabled child. Please, please, please do not count on that. Please set money aside and start saving now so that you will have a trust, so that your child can be taken care of after you pass, so that there's money allotted and allocated for that. Um, some extremely special needs children pass early, but a lot of them do not. And so, if you do not believe that your child is going to be able to be fully functioning, you need to start saving now, because you may not live until you're 65. So you may not have from the time they're born until you're 65 to save up for their care. So you need to start the day that they're born, the minute you find out that you're having a special needs child. Y'all, that thunder was so loud and scared me so badly that my hand is tingling. Okay, crazy. Um, so I think that's all I'm going to have for tonight. I'm 48 minutes into this live. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and subscribe to my channel. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will do a second live tomorrow on the same topic, and I will discuss my other two children. Um, my first child, the very different special needs. I'll just say that. And so I will discuss my other two children tomorrow, and hope you're enjoying my channel. I will, like I said, I will be going live more often. I will be uploading more. It has been a rough couple weeks. I've had a rough couple weeks, and so I have to show myself love and grace and self-care. And part of showing myself love and grace and self-care some days is I'm not able to upload, 100 reels or, go live. And I'm also at the same time trying to manage my other social media. And I have several kiddos, that I have to take care of as well. So just give me some grace in all of this. And I will chat with y'all tomorrow. Okay. Bye-bye. Oops. Okay. Okay. Wait. Okay, y'all, bear with me here. You can leave, but My computer's acting a little wonky.